It's no joke. It's not.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome. At this time, if you're able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, we'll open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Just to remind everybody, if you wish to approach the board, please head to the podium, state your name, your address. We've allotted 30 minutes for the first hearing and privilege, and everyone has 5 minutes to address the board if they choose to.
Tom Decker, 6 Red Coach Drive. You know, I sat down this morning on a job site and I wrote down all this crap here that I put down here, and half of it I just threw out the water right now because I just learned something that you guys have chosen to go with 3 K through 5s, right? And I respect that. I'd like to see that over 2 K through 5s and 1 3 through 5, or you know what I'm saying. But anyways, I'm nervous, so I'm trying to get this going. Whatever I say to the administration of the school board here, don't take it personal, whatever I say. This whole closure and re-imaging has turned our school into a circus act between the news and social media. That's sad, first of all. Just like politicians, I'm not a fan of politicians and not a fan of what I'm seeing from the board or administration either. That's my own opinion. You guys think you have the answers to everything. Nobody has the answers at all. This budget is something that we've been having a problem in for a very long time. This budget is not something that happened overnight. It's not something that happened 2 or 3 years ago. It's something that happened many years ago. And in my standing, the way I see it is it got swept underneath the rug every year, every year, and every year. And now we have this massive problem that we have to fix. Can you guys have the answers? Probably not. To me, this closing a school that's going to happen is only a temporary Band-Aid to fix a boo-boo. There's a bigger problem because 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to be asking for more money from us as taxpayers. We can only give so much. But once again, this goes back to the administration way back when we kept sweeping everything underneath the rug. Really quick, 2018, January, I decided to raise my grandson from day one. 2018, September, I decided to leave Rotterdam, Mahazan School District, because I wanted to give my grandson a better district, something better for his future. So I came to Scotia-Glenville. Last 3 years, he's been in Glen Warden. Awesome school. We all can sit here and say we all have great schools, great teachers, because we do. But you know what? From kindergarten to 2nd grade, Miss Pyzik, Miss Appel, Miss Vielkind have been absolutely awesome with my grandson. I could not ask for better teachers in that district. And I'm kind of hoping I'm going to see that this is going to continue right up to 5th grade. But closing the school, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, you know, nobody wins here. Nobody. 2 years from now, you're going to ask for more money. I am going to say one thing, and I'm going to be biased because I am a Glen Warden B, and we all stay together, is doesn't make difference what school you're going to close, but I want you to think long and hard when it comes to Glen Warden. 2 years ago, we suffered a bad situation. We lost our principal, Nick Grazone. That hurt family, that hurt students, and that hurt the teachers of our school. Closing our school is going to hurt us again because this year we have dedication of a bench in the tree, so when our kids go there, we go there for functions, or our teachers go there, we see him every day. We see that smile, we see that glow that he gave us. Don't make us suffer in 2 years twice by shutting Glen Warden down. Because right there, what are you going to do with that tree now? What are you going to do with that bench? Don't make us suffer by closing us down. We're strong, and we're going to stay strong. But my recommendations, think about long and hard. Nick Grazone, that'd be a slap in the face to him and his family and a slap to the face to us as a family too. Thank you.
Hi again. Danielle Murray Huba at 1024 Tomahawk Trail. Again, I did not plan on speaking, so bear with me. I have the same sentiments about Mr. Criscone because it was a devastation, even to those that have left Glenwarden. However, I do know that a school has to close. No matter what school it is, there's going to be kids affected. And as you saw at our reimagining open hearing, parents turned against each other. I need this board to please do something about this because the communities have great schools, great teachers. Everybody loves their school for one reason or another. And that's a testament to our school district, right? But sitting here and at that meeting, hearing village school versus Glenville schools, the community as a whole is in shambles. So I not only fear about the parents fighting over what school, but think steps ahead. A school has to close. So what kind of guidance and support are you going to give all the kids that are going to have to make a change? Whether it be Glenwarden stays open and somewhere else closes, what are you going to do for those kids? Because at the end of the year, those little kids get to meet a teacher that they're going to have next year. You're going to take a whole school of kids and have to move them. Hard decision, I know. But can you guys think of planning out something so that way they start to get to know the other teachers that they're going to be seeing? These familiar faces. I can tell you right now, I fought for Anthony to be, my son, sorry, to be in Glenwarden. All my kids went there and everything, and even in the special ed program. I really fought for him to go to that school because of the great teachers that they had and because of Principal Criscone. And when that whole thing happened, we were all devastated. And I keep thinking back to, they do have memorials and everything else. That's another huge change for these kiddos. So whether you have to close Glenwarden or not, something has to be done to talk to these kiddos because the parents are so heated with the whole situation, it's probably going to scare the kids, to be honest. Like, what I heard last week was atrocious. Like saying I went to a party and Glenville people were saying they don't want their kids mixing with village people. Hey, guess what? I never felt that way. My kids are all in middle school, high school, college, everything. They all mix. I don't see it any other way. But it's your guys' responsibility. This is your decision. But you gotta also bring the community back together. That should be a priority too, not just about closing the school, bring the community back together. Because the kids are the only ones that are suffering from years of nonsense. So, and then also, as a special needs mom, Glenwarden is the only school that's fully fenced in, I was told. I have a child that elopes. There's obviously many kids that elope. That's why this playground is completely fenced in. So whether you close Glenwarden or not, another thought process is to make sure that whatever school they're going to be in needs to be fully fenced in before they go to school there. That's a huge liability. Huge. And then also the staff has to be prepared to understand how an elopement happens. Because Glenwarden has it down. They make one announcement and there's 4 people at all those doors. Scary situation to have your child elope. So I know it's a hard decision and I respect your decision, but please support the kids and try to unify the parents. I know it's hard. It's a horrible hand we were dealt, but we're dealt it. So I do also encourage all the parents to understand we're all in this together. That's it. Thank you.
At this time, I will turn it over to Superintendent Short for her comments.
And I will join Mr. Giaquinto at the podium. Oh, thank you.
Okay, the first slide's self-explanatory, so we can go to the second slide. So I wanted to take the board back through about 9 months ago when we first drafted the budget, which was actually done last February, had a 6.33 gap, or about $4 million. And then we moved to a defeated budget, and then finally to an adopted budget, which showed a 3.25 increase in tax revenue, called the tax levy. The tax rate, which is what people saw an increase in their tax bill, was 1.44, and the spending increase was 2.19. And you can see how we went from a 6.33 to a 3.14 down to a 2.19, which was a lot of work and some reduction in FTEs, as well as some reduction in support staff services. But I wanted to give us a look back because it'll start showing kind of what we're looking at going forward. Okay. Good with that. So in summary, over the tax cap years, which is the year that the state imposed a simple majority or a supermajority type budget calculation. So there's a formula which sets how much you can raise the tax revenue in a district with a simple majority or a supermajority over 60%. You can see over that approximate 12 years that the tax levy has gone out about 2% increase, the tax rate 1.32, which I think reflects 3 tax decreases in that time, and a spending increase under 3%. So you can see the adopted budget on the previous page comes more in line with what the historical trend and what the community has supported. That's good. And again, most important is, as the gentleman who spoke, you can see the impact on a tax increase is on a community resident based on a $160,000 or $200,000 valued house. You can see we start out with almost $400 to $500 increase. The defeated budget got it down to $135 to $169, I believe, and then we ended up adopting a budget in the $60 to $80 increase. And again, you can see we reduced expenditures by almost 2.7. We did increase the revenues a little bit, and we closed that almost $3 million gap when we got an adopted budget, an approved budget by the public. These were the reductions, and I will kind of preface this with, these were what we looked at last June to get a proposed budget to the voters. Things do change as the board sees on fiscal projections. Things change in a school as we move through the school year. Certain things occur that we have to reshift and reallocate. But the plan last year to pass the budget and to close the gap was about 22 FTE reductions. You do note that there was a significant reduction by not filling one-year leave of absences. They all come back in 26, 27. That's why there's no head count, because I had to hold those positions. Took the money out, but held the positions. And you can see going all the way down, we hit every area. But again, that's the significant reductions, attrition to restructuring to leave of absences to everything from cleaners, grounds, clerical, and secretarial, And again, in summary, to move off of this, the budget reductions were almost 2.7 on expenses. And I wanted to point out the revenue that we did add some revenue at the end. Interest income, which was budgeted at $525,000 for 25-26, and we should hit it this year. We're in our, I believe, second Fed reduction. We're at 3.73 now. We budgeted 3% so we could anticipate Fed reductions. We knew they were coming. What does that mean for 26-27? Interest income, which was over $500,000, is going to be dropped. We got to make that money up. As the interest rates drop, we got to make that up. We also reduced the tax cert reserve, which is where we hold money in reserve for when you see Lowe's or Walmart or some commercial business that grieves their assessment with the town. We reserve money, and then when it settles favorably, we can bring that back to the general fund as revenue, and then some miscellaneous. So cutting expenses, a little bit of additional revenue, close that $2.8 million gap at the end. During these committee presentations, I've listened and absorbed some of the questions about additional funding. Why don't we look at additional funding? You can see on a almost $67 million budget, 98% of it comes from taxpayer money. Property taxes, payment in lieu of taxes, which is businesses that have agreements for 10 years usually, that they pay in lieu of getting a tax bill. They have an agreement with the municipality to pay something different. It's still taxpayer money. State aid is taxpayer money. Fund balance and reserves is what we saved and put back into reserves. That's taxpayer money. You can see the rest of it is very small percent of the overall funding. School districts are not in the business to make money. They're to basically provide program and services and to cover the cost. We can't go out and sell T-shirts and billboards on buses. We're not prohibited by SCD law. So we're very inhibited in what we can do other than basically raise taxes to support the budget. Hopefully the state aid does a better job than it's been doing for Scotia-Glenville, but under the current formula, we are fully funded, and that's why we're where we are today with these fiscal issues. As far as estimated timeline, you're going to see on an ensuing slide a kind of first look without a lot of detail, but as I've told the board, I have a good handle on how the numbers move after doing this for almost 20 years here. But this is the process. In January, we start meeting with administrators, transportation, building and ground teams, because to do a myopic budget, from my perspective, is cutting out people who have decision-making input, who understand the curriculum and what these kids need. I understand how numbers move, but there's things that we're going to do over the next month or so to see if we can chip away at certain things with economies of scale or better contracts on non-staffing contracts. That'll be in January. It's a lot of meetings. Christine Carasone on my team, she works with me on this. But so it's a lot of work, but it's what January is about. And then hopefully in early February, we get state aid from the governor's run. We'll vet that and see what the integrity is on those numbers, and then we'll do a tax cap calculation and hopefully get some attrition numbers for the board on retirements. And then, as last year, probably mid-February, end of February, give you that first draft. But this is all what has to take place in a systematic approach. It takes time, and it gives you something that you can make decisions on. So, last year, the expenses went up 6.33%. Right now, economically, with health insurance, as you can all see through the articles in the paper around this community, in this state, in this country, you're looking at double digits again there. You know what our collective bargaining agreements are. So I can safely say to you, without doing anything different, you'd see a 6% increase. If you take 6% on last year's budget, and I'm rounding numbers, it's $4.2 million that we're going to go up in expenditures. Last year, we went up 4.1. We did reduce the base, but it's going to, things are still in place that are going to move. So State aid. Last year we were flat. The governor put a hold harmless clause, so I think we got about $500,000 more in foundation aid, which is 65% of our overall aid, because the rest are expense driven. If we get a hold harmless this year, and I don't know that we are, I don't know, that'd be about $600,000. If the tax cap is 2%, and I don't know what it is, but if it is, 2% on 35 million, which is our tax levy, is 700,000. You take 4.2 minus the 1.3, that's 2.9 gap. That has synergy to what I presented last June when I said about 2.7. And again, it could be better, it could be worse. This is the first look. It is not anything I'm presenting formality, but I can do this. I can give you estimates so you can understand what we're going to probably be facing, and it doesn't deviate much from what I said last June. Okay. Excuse me. These are the direct cost assessment of our elementary schools. Again, these numbers may deviate a little bit, but it's a point in time, so it still bears credibility, and and it gives you something to base your your input on, your decision on. You can see the enrollment. This is non-special ed programs, okay, of the 4 schools. Of course, SAC is the outlier because it's a 2-story. It's our largest capacity building. And then I broke down into how the staff is laid out between instructional, which is teachers, teaching assistants, aides and monitors. That's all instructional in a building. The main office, which is your principal and secretarial support, your custodial and cleaning staff. And you get this kind of look at the head count, and you can see the synergy between Glendale, Glenwarden, and Lincoln. And then you can also see the synergy in the cost per building. Putting SAC out to the side, they're all about 2.8 million, give or take. So this is consistent what I displayed last March, I believe. I think it was on a PowerPoint in March. So figure about 2.8 is your direct cost staffing of an elementary school, excluding special need programs, because they got to live somewhere. Utility costs, as I do every year, and the board received it about, 4 weeks ago. I do an energy analysis. So I wanted to show you the ebb and flows. I did a 15-year average because, as you know, the oil market changes, collapses, different things go up and down in the commodities market. But over 15 years, you can kind of see that Glenwarden and Lincoln are pretty much the same. Sacandaga, a little more efficient, and Glendale, which is the outlier because it's oil, and oil is the more volatile and higher priced fuel. But you can see I wanted to point out the average annual cost of these buildings. Glendale, $70,000, Glenwarden, Lincoln, slightly under 40, and Sacandaga, 41. The question that as I helped kind of do guest appearances at certain committees, or I listen, if you shut down a school, you still got to run the heat at 55 probably, so the pipes don't freeze. That requires electricity to get to the boiler. National Grid has a base load they give to each building, so at the demand level, you're going to pay utilities even if you shut down a building because you want your security cameras to work, you want certain lights on, you want your boiler to work. I don't know the exact number, but to give you an approximation, figure half. It's costing you 70, you cut it in half by mothballing it. And again, these aren't the big numbers on a $2.8 million school. That's what I wanted to point out. We have efficiencies, we've put capital improvements in, we got LED lighting, we've got controls. You can see it's not the biggest proponent of those buildings. We're a staff-driven industry. It's money, we take it seriously, but you can see it's not a lot in the overall totality of a building. Okay. Transportation. One of the things as we start transportation, which the most important thing to me in transportation is the safety and trying to minimize disruption to students, time on the bus. I want to thank Clara Bezoyan for working with me all weekend in last week, and we put this together. I hope shed some light on what transportation looks like. But one of the things you hear me say from time to time is that, and it's not a negative, we over-transport. The state has their regulations. You can see what we do. What does that mean? The state doesn't aid us on some of our runs. It's called a non-allowable decimal calculation. And they say because you're over-transporting so many miles, we're not going to aid you on that. It's just a fact. It's not a decision-making thing, but I wanted to point that out that, you know, Scotia does transport, I guess, above or below the state regulations. Then this thing about kindergarten, kindergartners do walk. Sacandaga has a special walking zone, and there's only a couple kids this year that are, some years it's more than others. This year it's not very many. I think it's 1 or 2, Clara was telling me. And Lincoln has no exceptions for grade K. And of course, Glen Warden and Glendale do not have any walkers. Okay. This is the current look today of the elementary schools, and I wanted to break it down into riders, which includes parents driving their kids who can ride. So it's riders, it's walkers, and I wanted to show you the bus routes, the bus stops, and the annual miles and the cost per mile. You can see when you go all the way over, the annual cost to transport students for the elementary schools is about $280,000, but we get aid on that. So you deduct the aid, you can see the net cost is about $84,000. So I wanted you to focus on that number as you move into scenarios. And I'm not recommending what we do, I just wanted to show you, you can look up there. You have the walkers at Lincoln and the walkers at SAC. So depending on where we go, those 190 kids or those 92 or 98 would have to be transported. So you'll see that in the ensuing models if we do scenarios. But again, the totality of miles, focus on that 120, 600, and then the net cost, because those are going to change as we move to the next 2 models. So again, just an economic impact if Glen Warden closes. So if Glen Warden closes, my assumption for the routing that Clara and I built was some got to go to Glendale and some got to go to Lincoln because SAC has no room. So you can see what happens here. You know, Lincoln still has the walkers and SAC does, but Glen Warden disappears out of this matrix, and Glendale and Lincoln pick up ridership. But you can see the overall annual miles goes up by 6,000 and the cost goes up only 4 net because of the aid. And again, we're looking at the number of bus routes and bus stops. And again, I'll preface that once I know, and Clara knows, what we're going to do, we can even drill down further on this as we move along the process. This is the best we can do at this point. But it does give you a look. It gives you a display, I think, that does answer some of the questions that have been asked. And if Lincoln closes, now the walkers have to be, those 92 walkers have to go to Glendale and to Glen Warden. And you can see the assumptions as we built the routing assumptions. And you can see the cost now goes from the miles go from 120,000 to 138, almost 139. And the annual cost goes to 321. You can see how that's going up. But the net's now 96, I believe. And it was slightly about 83 as we exist today. So about 13,000 more if we close Lincoln. So again, it's money. I'm more concerned with, as we go through this, the disruption to students and see how they're going to be on the buses and things like that. And this kind of gives you an idea, but you can see the economic impact is not going to change the dynamics of what we're facing. It's not the driving cost. And that's because of the aid.
What is our ratio?
Aid's about anywhere 70 to 72. It depends on what year, but usually about 70% we get back on allowable expenses. So I put together a summary of all these costs. And you can see the staffing, the 2.8 across till you get to Sacandaga. the utility cost and the transportation cost. And again, you can see 3 of the schools are close. SAC is the outlier. So I thought this brought it back in a nice summary form. You could kind of pull the 3 areas back in and look at it. So these, the goals, and again, this is just what I would look like, what I would want as working for the district, and be to maintain all the programs. Whatever we do, the goal of the administration and the board would be to maintain all programs. Your fiscal officer, budgetary stabilization. So one of the questions is, we do it in year 1, how does year 2 and year 3 look like? Because that's the, once I know what school is, I can do a look out. I can do a 3-4 year look out, but I have to know what the chess pieces are, how they're moving. And right now with seniority and bumping and this and that, I couldn't tell you, but you're reducing your base for real this time. You're not just cutting around the edges. It's a significant reduction of assets, which is your staff. That's our main asset is our personnel. So we want to avoid future significant gaps, which since I've been here, we haven't had the ebb and flow. We've been pretty stable. I showed you that 2013 to 25, 2% increases. We've been able to do it, but we've had to, finally last year it came to hit when the aid dried up. There was no, CARES Act, there was no election year money. She went to the formula and we were fully funded and we saw the impact of it. And I did say it's been coming, I've elaborated on it, but I don't want to go too much into that. I would hope that we could achieve 70% of what you saw up there. So if you said to me, close A, B, or C, we can't get all those dollars because people can bump. People have different benefits depending on where, right? So I may not have insurance, my spouse may have it, so I'm not going to save you as much as somebody else. Until I know who the pieces are, I can't give you an exact number. But I think the goal will be to get at least 70% of the $3 million or 2.1 or $2 million. Other questions that have been coming up that I've listened to were what are the other areas to either repurpose or increase revenue? You can get rid of an asset. You could sell a building. If you sell a building and the board determines that it's not useful anymore, the board can make that decision, sell that building. You don't have to have a public vote. However, the public can petition for a vote. It's called a permissive referendum. You might have seen that shit on the hole when they were trying to sell land. They ended up having to go out for a vote. But initially, it is the board's authority to sell a building. If you lease a building, you could say, I want to lease it, capital lease. If it's less than 10 years, the board can do it with its own resolution. If it's over 10 years, you must have a public vote. That's just it. And you can bring new programs in. Again, preschool, as you heard Susan say, and I've worked on it with her for many years. That helps the community, brings a program in. It's not a revenue generator. It's basically, we can bring that program in by ourselves, we lose money. We got to raise taxes because the state aid only covers half what's needed to run the program. So we're looking to collaborate with other districts to kind of make it a break-even sort of thing. It's not, again, we're not in the business to make money. We're in the business to provide program and be concerned with our tax impact on our community. But these are just things that I identified as potential ways to, use a building. There's other things, but we already have classroom rental. BOCES rents classrooms at $12,000 a classroom. I believe Advanced Therapy rents a classroom from ARCS, right? But there's not a lot of that because BOCES expanded their campus and this and that, so we're seeing less BOCES renting our classrooms and things like that. So I think that's it. I hope this helps give you some kind of picture economically on what you're looking at. So.
Questions for Drew?
That's Michael.
144 enrolled students. Every other piece of information I've seen is like 188 to 190. Is that just the general ed? Is there a difference between?
It could be their special needs student population. It's not included in my numbers. Mine's just general ed.
And then on slide 15, you have the bus routes going from 36. So if we have 6 extra bus routes, does that mean 6 extra drivers and 6 extra buses?
No, we will not need extra buses, and this is based on the 20 or so drivers, Claire, right, that we have now. We can't find drivers, as you know, so no. It's basically by how this happens, Mike, is other things are freed up. By closing that school, it just frees things up to cover more routes. So we don't need more drivers or buses if we decommission a school.
But you're going from 30 routes. A route is just a circle or a loop on it, so you can do 2 routes for 1 driver. Okay.
Other questions for Drew?
On the transportation end of it, you said that we're over transport. Could you explain what that means exactly? And from my perspective, is that something we're looking at right sizing where we can be more efficient than what we're doing?
Sure. It means that students that should be walking are riding. For instance, Glen Warden, there's no sidewalk, so the board years ago, every student that goes to Glen Warden rides a bus. Under the state parameters, some should be walking, which, you know, so if Glen Warden remained open, you wouldn't change that. And again, the reason the board did this years ago is because it's safety. You know, they look at different areas, so we do safety scenarios, railroad tracks and things like that. So I don't know that there'd be anything that we would change based on the safety of our students. If that answers your question.
Yeah. Once we get to the actual where we're consolidating the facility, are we going to look at maximizing our transportation? I guess.
Once I know and Clara knows, then we can drill down and really start putting this. You know, this was really us creating boundaries based on some scenarios, but when we actually know what's going on, we can plug and put this stuff in and see where the kids are going to go. But I don't expect it to deviate too much from this because of what we did, the methodology. But we will work at this and we will communicate this as we move along.
Okay.
So.
And one last one on the elementary gen ed numbers. Is that real-time numbers right now, or is that projected?
Real time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know when you were doing this, and I appreciate you were looking at the financial piece to it. At this point, has there also been a review with respect to the time the students will be on the bus, depending on which school is closed? And is that information we could get as well?
We're working on that. We did do a range, and I don't know if Clara, do you want to speak to that, Clara?
Will there also be a potential right sizing with that as well? Because I also know there's students who are necessarily just over the walking line, but because the way the route goes, they're close to the school, but they end up on the bus for a significant amount of time based on the route. Will that be something that's looked into as well as part of this whole process?
It's something that we try to mitigate every year. However, there are some roads we won't cross kids on. It's just not safe. And so a lot of times when that scenario happens, it's because the bus is going, in the most efficient way, but they live on the opposite side, so they do have to ride the bus until the bus can turn around and come back that way. We're always going to have some of those kids. There's just no way to fix that and be safe at the same time.
Understood, thank you. Has there been any thought, and I don't even know if this is doable, I'm literally just spitballing here, but I know there's a lot of parents who would normally be riders, but they bring their own students back and forth to school. Has there ever been any consideration of doing some sort of agreement where those parents will assert in writing, I'll be bringing my child back and forth to school, to maybe try to handle the bus situation? Because I know there's a lot of students, I admit I was one of those parents as well.
Like
back
a
in
waiver?
the day.
Like a-
Right, some
yeah.
sort of waiver document. I'm bringing my child back and forth to school, they will not need the bus. And
We've actually had those discussions, but legally, say it was you can change your mind. So therefore, what validity does that piece of paper have? We still got to basically provide for that seat on the butt because you're entitled to it.
Sure.
So it's a
Understood.
thought, and we did look at it, but because we can't say once you say no, you can't
That's it.
come on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm guessing that under the slide 10, these are all FTE numbers, right? So,
Drew, can I ask a better question?
Yes, absolutely. That's why she's here.
How are you? All right. The numbers that you have for the two scenarios with Glen Warden closing and Lincoln closing, you have SAC at 305 on each one of those. Is that utilizing SAC to its fullest capacity or no?
I can't speak to the capacity of the school, if that's what you're asking. Or you're asking the buses.
I'm talking, where did that number, I guess that's what I want to know. The 305 is just a number, and on all the other situations that we've seen in the Transportation Committee that you were awesome on, just so everybody can hear it, they were like 350 to 360.
I guess I need to see the number you're talking about.
Slide 10.
I'm on slide 10. Mike, is it slide 10?
No, it's the stuff that we presented back and forth.
Oh, your committee meeting?
Your committee stuff, sorry.
So my numbers are rolling numbers, so I'm sure you're aware that the number of kids that attend in each building changes for me on a daily basis. So you're going to see when I make those projections or I get through reports or what my thoughts are, those numbers are always going to change. But I'm wondering if you're seeing a walking and, I would have to look at the slide when I get to my office and I can respond through on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have another question. Could you discuss the thought process behind not including Glendale as one of the potential closures?
I approached it because of the work that goes into this, that you can look at what have to be disrupted, how far these kids would have to go. So to me, and it's not my decision, but Sacandaga's got to live because you can't find those kids into 3 schools, and Glendale's the outlier. So you'd be like sending more kids further, longer on buses and this and that. So that's why I approached on what I believe, and I've listened to committees. I've also had people in my office that people realize it's the 2 schools are the discussion. And you can see how the transportation kind of displays that with what the walkers and so forth. It's not that I want you, all these schools are great schools. I've personally been involved in every capital project that we've enhanced the value of these schools. I'm proud of what this board and this community's done, but to me, when you look at the numbers economically, you got an outlier school with 180-something kids that you'd be moving all the way down, which is going to increase your costs and disruption. And Sacandaga, really you can't because of the number. It's 2 stories, it's your largest capacity building. Where are you going to put these kids? So that's my economic look at it. It doesn't mean you couldn't look at it. It's what I could put together in the last, once the committee's, what I could do.
I do agree with you, Kim. We are shipping a lot of kids north to Glendale, and every other kid who lives north of Glendale is going to the middle school and high school, which are right next to Sac and Lincoln. So I do agree with you on that.
Drew, I do have a question that I hear a lot is, can you explain how the average cost per student is calculated?
Take the cost of the building divided by the number of students.
Building, like, so you have it broken down. So a lot of people I see comment or ask about cost per student, how that's calculated.
Just the cost of that building. You see it on your, when we do the transparency too, and a lot more things are loaded into, that annual report. And the state provides it also, but this is my calculation, just taking that 2.8 divided by the number of students, you get a cost per student.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Drew, I want some clarity. The scenarios they gave us, all the writers, these are their home schools. Nobody's being, like, certain parents asking me, can I take it with one warden? Can I take it with Lincoln?
I don't know. I know in my analysis, it doesn't account for the special where you allow a kid to go out of boundary. When Susan does that thing, so no, I don't.
Home schools, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Going off again what Mike said, do we as a board feel like we need to see Glendale numbers as well? Because I'm not asking them solo, but if as a group we feel like we need to see those numbers as well.
I want to see all options. I don't want to see no stone unturned. We didn't look at it at all. My view.
Based on slide 11, their utility cost is $15,000. $15,000 is a drop in the bucket of a $3 million deficit, but it still adds up.
So, I can run for like sometime in January the Glendale transportation. If it flips, I can do that. Just couldn't get it done for this because tonight's not which school; it's just on. So.
I know I would appreciate that, Drew, and I appreciate the extra effort.
You're welcome. So I hope this helps.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Folks, I've brought to you a recommendation this evening that we open next year as 3 K-5 buildings. So again, not which building would close, but that we would have 3 K-5 buildings as our grade level configuration. I'll talk just briefly about this. When the committees began meeting, our work groups, in September, at our first meeting on September 8th, I shared with the committees that their job was to address goals that had been set forth in their charge. And those charges came out of the SED regulations for things to consider when closing a school. So one of those things was grade level configuration, and that was Mr. Arquette's group. I think sometimes we have confused GLCs, and we think GLC is always grade level centers. But when I say GLC, I'm really talking about grade level configuration, of which grade level centers could be one. So Rick's group was working on that. Other groups were working on their tasks. We have 6 working groups. And all of their minutes and agendas are published on the Reimagining Our Schools website. We had also started with the research that was done in 2010 by Dr. Dukowski, and then again in 2021 by Steve Zotner, which show clearly our enrollment has continued to decline over time. Sometimes it's been a little better than was predicted, sometimes a little worse, more of a loss. But if you look at that data, you will see that this is a trajectory that the district has been on. We also currently have classes of 13, 12 kids, and then we have classes of 21, 22. And the board has certainly heard folks talk about equity in terms of class size, depending on where you are in the district. So looking at that information. Mr. Arquette and the leadership team spent a faculty meeting talking with our teachers, gathering data, information, all of which they gave to you, and I understand that since that time it didn't come. You've also received from the SGTA some additional information that they had pulled together. My group, the Repurposing a School, put out a survey. You've been getting emails. I've had 3 coffee clutches, 2 of them grounds for discussion, 2 of them focused primarily on school closure. So we've had lots of information that we've been considering. As I had said to the board at one point, I understand that Mr. Arquette's group felt strongly about grade level centers, despite the fact that there is not much in terms of specific data about grade level centers versus K-5s. In fact, most of the data is K-5 versus K-8. Which of those is the better arrangement? Rick's group was pretty enthusiastic about the idea of grade level centers and saw that as having some real benefits to students. As I prepared to make my recommendation to you this evening, and I considered all of these data points that we had and the research I had done in terms of grade level centers, which again is pretty slim, I thought to myself, if I were building a new school in the district to accommodate an increase in enrollment, I would try a grade level center. I truly would. But that's not what I'm doing. What I am bringing you is a recommendation that will address both our declining enrollment and our fiscal needs. The overarching theme that I have received from the feedback I have gathered is that people, even if they were enthusiastic about grade level centers, were concerned about transitions, both the number of transitions for children, but also the transitions that families would need to make if they had students in multiple schools, multiple elementary schools. I don't think anybody gets, well, I'm sure it's still distressing, but certainly when you have a child at elementary, at middle, and high school, you're dealing with 3 different schools, staff, etc. So that notion of continuity is very important to our community. Folks have spoken very passionately about what they see as the students' needs, and as you heard Drew say tonight, we want to provide everything we're currently providing, and of course we always want to provide more if we can. So as I considered all of these pieces in preparation for making my recommendation to the board, I come to you tonight with a recommendation that we open next year with 3 K-5 elementary schools. This doesn't mean we couldn't go back and consider grade level centers at some point in time, but as I think about our students' needs and instructionally, Can I find research that backs K2 3 5 arrangements are more instructionally sound than K5? I can't. Can I find data about social emotional needs of students and their growth versus social emotional needs of students when you're in a situation where you have less transitions? Yes, there's lots of data on the mental health needs of students, especially post-COVID. And so this is the recommendation I bring you tonight and I feel most comfortable with today. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Did you want to say anything, Mr. Arquette? Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Susan now before we move on to the vote?
Vote. I would say
Question?
vote. No questions.
All right, thank you, Susan. So then we will move on for a motion and a second, please, to adopt the grade level configuration of 3 K-5 schools for the 26-27 school year, please.
A motion to adopt the grade level configuration of 3 K through 5 elementary schools for the 2026-2027 school year, as stated.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you both. All right, we'll open up to comments and questions. I'd just like to start and thank all the groups that have met in the committees, the relentless times that you guys have done it. We've heard a lot through as a board. We spoke about it several times about some people may feel like their time's been wasted or their voices haven't been heard. I'll tell you, my 2 cents is you started the conversation for the future, that maybe today we aren't prepared for it, but in the big picture that could be a possibility. So you're the blocks to build the future for us. So I think as we go forward, and if we still continue to have declining enrollment as these studies have shown, this might be a conversation that continues as we go forward. I have 2 questions. The first one would be the individual committees, if they personally feel like they're asking questions to the heads and they're not getting the information, how should they go about doing that if they've asked for some information? Because now really, once tonight we vote, now the other part of the work starts with what's the school going to be. So if there's specific information that the committee is asking for that they might not feel they're getting from the person in charge of that committee, who should they email you? Should they email
Yes.
you? Okay. And then the other thing is go ahead.
Probably the quicker way is copy me on the email to the committee leaders.
Okay. All right, beautiful. And then as we go forward and people do transition, more people move in, hopefully, into the village or the hills, and, what are we going to do as far as keeping an eye on class sizes as we go forward? Because obviously they're all going to increase a little bit now, so we don't get out of whack again like we might have in the past year.
Well, Drew, you jump in here at any point, and Rick, we have talked about what some people call swing zones, which is how I would refer to them, that would allow us to identify an area where if we were getting out of whack again, that area might shift incoming students to a different school. And that would be, of course, well, it would be if we were grade level centers, but certainly K-5. And we've done this in the past when our enrollments, we have made budget adjustments. So there was a time when Lincoln was really lean and we moved kids down Second Harbor Road back towards Lincoln, went over towards Sunnyside, brought kids that way. That balanced things out, but that notion of swing zones and transportation would be how we started looking at that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Drew, would you add anything to that?
No, that's true, what you did.
Other questions, comments?
No, I think listening to the community, trying to decide this community overall made their feelings known on it. That's part of the equation. The staff also have made their opinions known, and that's part of the equation. And Drew did a great job with his team of bringing us what K-5 looks like now and going into next year, and that's definitely part of the equation. I'm just hesitant because I think Rick's committee brought a lot of questions. Mr. Danetti's presentation had a lot of fiscal questions that going forward we might have to look at, because the communities we heard tonight have made it pretty clear that raising taxes is not something they're really hot to hear again. So it's just a reluctant decision on my part of not feeling I have everything I could have gotten out of the grade level centers configurations. Certainly I think K-5 on our time is probably our best bet. I just wonder what's out there that we're not exploring if we're just blindly adopting the status quo again. So it's really worrying. Like I said, you got two parts of the equation you need. You got the community, you got the staff, but for the numbers' sake. And I go back to what John presented us at the forum. That's intriguing because that's part of our job to be fiscally responsible, especially going forward. So it's I feel like I'm lacking in that area.
Can I retort?
Go for it.
There's absolutely no change regardless of what we do next year. John said that clear as day 3 or 4 times. So if we do adopt the motion tonight, we still have the option to explore the grade level centers and actually have time to do it correctly.
We do. I'm worried that we're making a decision just based off of this. That we're just picking up K-5 because what? I'm just unclear on that.
Time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I also had issues with the transition time frame as well. It really concerned me. But I also wasn't sure about the numbers for the first year either, because I think there was other financial considerations that we didn't really put a number on, reconfiguring some of the buildings or some of the rooms in the buildings because they're towards a younger age group, but we're moving them to be a 3 through 5, or this staffing levels. How are we going to make those changes? There's going to be money with that, and not seeing the transportation numbers. I wasn't truly sure that there was. I felt like there was going to be some financial excess changing to the grade level center configuration that we hadn't really been able to put a number on, and that made me nervous.
I think that long-term effect of things we don't have to say, yes, we're going to save in 2 and 3, but what are the long-term cost effects?
Anything else? All right, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Or abstained?
Same.
So moved. All right, we'll get a motion, please, on item number 6.
I'll motion to approve the shared service agreement by and between the Board of Education of the Guilderland Central School District and the Scotia-Glenville Central School District for transportation of students.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Mr. Chen. Questions, comments on this one? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. If I get a motion, please, on resolution number 7 to award contracts.
I'd like to make a motion to award contracts for the Scotia-Glenville School District 2024 Capital Improvement Project Controls and Security Solutions.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
Anyone have any questions or comments on this?
I actually have a question about this one, and it'd be the same question for the next one. I saw that both of these project awards were made to companies in lieu of a competitive bidding process. So I was wondering why there wasn't a competitive bidding process needed here.
Under the procurement policy of the Scotia-Glenville School District, it allows for the use of state contracts, which are bid by OGS, vetted by OGS. It allows us to still negotiate with the companies that are on state contract, which we do. So the primary reason to do it is there could be a vendor that we've done business with that does good business, like Day Automations in our security and our doors. So if they're on state contract, it allows us to negotiate with them without having an outsider lowest cost come in, and bring in someone who doesn't have the same synergy with us on our system. So we look at state contract. We've done it in various capital projects. You'll see that with controls for our heating systems. We have a standardization one time because we want a TBS in. But this is why we use this sort of thing. It's the mechanism to avoid the cost of a competitive bid because the state's already done it. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion and a second, please, for resolution number 8?
I'll make a motion to award contract for the Scotia-Glenville School District 105 Capital Outlay Project, gym hoop and wall padding replacement at the high school.
Thank you, Granjet. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments besides the one that came out for the previous?
I'm guessing this is for the whole, both gyms, right? The meeting.
The one gym, the
The main
basketball.
gym?
No, not the main gym, it's the other gym that has.
Older one?
Yeah.
What the voting is usually? Okay.
So this is our annual 100K project, so we'll get 74% back on this at the end of the year once it's completed.
So,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
If nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I can get a motion on resolutions 9, 10, 11, and 12, please?
I'll move with thanks to accept the donation of $100 from Warren and Beverly Geisler to be applied to the Mary Moore and Raymond Memorial Scholarship, the donation of $500 from the Lincoln School PTA to be applied to the Dorothy Burbank Scholarship, to accept the donation of $500 from Lincoln School PTA to be applied to the Carolyn Gurdon Scholarship, and to accept the donation of $400 from the Secretarial Association through the Walkathon fundraiser to be applied to the Scotia-Glenville High School Secretarial Association Scholarship as submitted.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Kim, questions or comments on any of those? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved with thanks. And then if I can get a motion on resolution 13, 14, and 15 from Upstate Images, please.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the gift and donation from Upstate Images for the middle school. Yeah, do you want me to cover each one or just broad like that? Yeah, for the middle school, the athletic department, and Glendale Elementary.
Thank you, sir. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I had a question. I mean, I appreciate the donation. I'm just curious, this is the first time I've ever seen something like this. Is this something that happens from Upstate Image or just?
These are the profits from fixtures, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay. Thank you.
Nothing else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. If I get a motion and a second, please, to approve the revised BOE Policy 1500, public use of school facilities.
I'll motion to approve the revised Board of Education Policy 1500, public use of school facilities.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chad. Comments, questions?
I had a question about this one because I know it had a first reading the last meeting, and maybe I misunderstood what was going on. But Hal had some good ideas and thoughts about some additions to be made to this policy. And I thought we were going to address in trying to incorporate them before we had a final vote on this one. But the way I read it, it looks the same as the last time. So
I think our understanding was that we were going to ask you to approve it as is and then send it to the Board Policy Committee for them to work through the changes.
okay, I didn't understand it that way. So, but thank you.
All right, what's the group feel to approve it as is with recommendations from 2 weeks ago?
I think we had to approve it as is for the legalese, but we can add the parts that you like to it.
Right.
And then send it back up.
What, correct?
Can we put I just worry when we do that it gets,
You want something easier.
pardon me?
What we do-
Yes,
I'm going to
exactly.
ask Kathy to weigh in.
The work that they've been doing this for the past 2 years on this is one of those ones from that. It just brings us current. So it brings, we're already doing these things in the way that they've changed, like how they do things using ML or whatever, and the way it's worded, so it just brings us current. If you want to make changes to them, we can do that after this has been adopted. At least it brings us to our current practice right now. Otherwise, we're still working on an antiquated board policy that they worked on for the past 2 years.
So by approving now, then they can add the changes, and then we
Right,
just,
those-
it doesn't
that
have to go a
brings-
long period, it just comes
No.
right back to us for
Yeah,
approval.
oh yeah, we can change the next.
So it doesn't
meeting
have
if
to
you
take,
want.
like, it's taken
No.
long for this part, so this,
No.
if you approve now, then we should make the changes, it's a shorter period of time than sending it all the way back out again.
Can we put an asterisk on it?
Yeah, we can approve it
Somewhere in
with
there?
knowing that we're gonna ask that for it to be redone.
Yeah, I'd like to change the motion then. I would like to change the motion that we accept it as is, but with the understanding it's going back to the policy committee to have changes based on Hal's suggestion from the December 8th, 2025 meeting.
Yep. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Can we, if I write this up, can we do this over winter break? Just via email and get it back to Hal for approval to send it up to wherever it has to go to?
Easy peasy.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Then I'll do it over winter break.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Agree
I
with that?
appreciate it.
All right, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Anybody in a motion, and a second please on communications and report of superintendent?
I'll motion to move communications A through E, staffing 1 through 7, placement with children with disabilities, and the minutes from October 6th, October 20th, and November 10th, as needed.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thanks, Jeff. Questions or comments on any of that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Routine business, treasury report, November 25. Any questions on that? All right. Other business? Or any other business that they would like to bring up?
I had a couple of things. One, I wanted to let the community know that the board has picked its next employee of the month, just because with everything that's been going on, it's going to be announced at the next meeting. I don't want people to think that we've gone to the wayside on that. It's something the board takes very seriously, and we will be presenting at the next meeting. I just wanted to say that I thought last week was a great week with everybody's concerts, the high school winter concert. Great job to Michael on the drums and the xylophone and other instruments I don't know the name of.
That would be the marimba.
Oh, okay. See, I knew I didn't know one. I thought just the talent just amazes me at all levels, and seeing the elementary schools and the middle school just amazes me. And also the Corollaires reunion on Friday was just, it really was inspiring to me as a non-singer, seeing alumni all the way back to 1955. We had an alumni there singing. We even had our very own Mike Torelli up there with his son singing, and seeing families actually up there together. It was just something that I thought that Jessica Creasy and the Scotia-Glenville Alumni Association did a really amazing job putting together. That stage was packed with people. It was really cool to see, and as somebody else had said, it was like they'd been singing together for a very long time. It was really, really cool.
Awesome, thank you. Any other business? No. All right, this time we'll open up the second hearing and privilege floor. Just remind everybody we have allotted 30 minutes. Each person that wishes to report, please head to the podium. Name, address, and 5 minutes, please.
8:18. There's no timer on the board this time. My name's Amy Marlette. I live at 506 Mohawk Avenue. What are we doing? Financial stability, that's the #1 goal Drew put up there. What are you doing? Grade level centers provided the financial stability. What is the plan? You talked that there was a survey? That survey did not ask if I was for 3 K through 5 buildings or grade level centers. It didn't do that. That didn't ask that. 42 people showed up to your committee meeting. 42, and that included half the people on this board. And included the admin. That's who showed up and gave you gave you feedback. That's it. One elementary school mobilized incorrectly. They should have been at the January 22nd one and said, please don't close our school. That's the feedback you got from 15 people. We service 2,100 students. 15 grown-ups showed up. This district deserves better than what we're giving them. We need financial stability. Want to talk about what you did tonight? You told us that 26 kids in a classroom is A-okay. And 12 in another elementary school because their parents have different socioeconomic standing. That's okay. Because nobody wants to look up the definition of equity. You made it the village kids versus the not village kids. Pam Carbone said something back during budgets that Scotia deserves better, and she's right. What are you doing? Come on. Don't ever approve $1 for DEI education ever again, because we didn't learn the lesson. We didn't take the learning. We didn't do anything with it. The first time your feet were put to the fire for equity and you did nothing, you crumbled. This district deserves a leader that's going to do the hard thing. Make the hard decision. You had 147 days from the day I stood here on March 3rd and said, you want to help fix your budget? Do these things. Close the school was one of them. April 7th, Hal looked at me and said, we're going to do a committee. 147 days later, a committee met. Yeah, you're busy in the summer, so am I. I've been busy every night of those committee meetings. What a waste of my time. You didn't listen. The financial reality, you didn't look at it. If you needed more data, yeah, you're right. The committee should have been formed in July 1st. The first committee meeting should have been July 15th and moved on. You could have asked for all your data in the world. They would have had all of September and October to get it for you. No, we couldn't do that. We waited 147 days to convene a committee. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep looking at people and saying, you need to be in your job a year before you have to be effective. If I was told that in my job, I'd be asked to leave. 90 days you get to be effective. It's 2025. It's about to be 2026. We can't operate like it's 1992. It doesn't work that way. Come on. You've made it the haves and have-nots. If you're going to address grade level centers, there better be a plan. And there better be on a meeting agenda starting July 1st for this board. 3 of you are up for re-election. Remember that. Because you just said it's okay to have 26 kids in a village classroom and 12 in a not village classroom. That's what you did. That is not equity. Those kids are not getting the same education as everybody else. You also have a problem. The reason your teachers don't want to do it because you haven't trained your principals to be people leaders. They're great at leading kids. They can't lead their staff because you don't invest in people leadership. Do that. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, so stick through K through 5 buildings. Start training your principals on how to lead a staff. There's 80 people. It's hard. Teach them how to do it. This is ridiculous, and it is wrong. Swing zones, they don't work. We say we have them, they don't use them. They don't work. So you're going to look at those 15 kids, because now we're going to keep these classes equitable. 15 kids get to move every year. That's fair. It's okay, everybody else is fine. These 15 kids, we couldn't make a hard decision, so these 15 kids can suck it up. Great. Scotia deserves better. There, I made it in 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Christina Stryjek. I reside at 114 Sealy Street. I don't have anything strategically planned, but I was listening at home and thought it was important that I came today. I have a 1.5-year-old, and I have 2 children at SAC, one in 4th grade, one in 3rd grade. Those 2 kids, they have the bigger class sizes. They are the ones directly affected. Whatever change you might do, is going to be fine for them. They're resilient. But my 1.5-year-old, we can make the change now so that her transition is seamless when she's in kindergarten. I work at Gloversville, and if you don't know, they have the model of the K through 2, 3 through 5 building. Actually, we have pre-K too for free. Go figure. But it works. The public was not happy about it. I talked to much senior teachers than me. They said it was met with a lot of pushback from the union and a lot of pushback from the kids. But it has worked so well for collaboration. I give 2 days a week in the morning before the kids come for planning. I talked with Rick about this. It's amazing what I can get done with my colleagues when they're in the same building. I couldn't imagine having 9 teachers in 3 different buildings and being able to successfully collaborate instruction and make sure that my children in my class have the same educational opportunities as the others in another building. It's not as seamlessly done. You had asked for our time. As parents, as community members, we had lots of teachers in Rick's group. We had a lot of parents. There was some disagreements, I'm not gonna lie. We didn't all agree every day, but we came together and we gave our honest opinion, saying that grade level centers was the best fit for Scotia going forward. Also looking forward, yes, we are probably going to have to downsize another building. Why not do it when we have the time and the one time to make the changes now? If we make the changes now and we have to get rid of another building when Lily is in kindergarten in 5 years, we can just say, okay, you know what? We don't need 2 K through 2 buildings anymore. Let's just merge them into one. It's a lot less transitions. It's not going to be easy no matter how we slice it. But if we can make the decisions now, 10 years from now, we won't have to do it again. But we need to make sure that there's equity. Because as a teacher, if I had to teach 25 kids with varying abilities versus 12, it's not equitable. It's not the same, if we want to just boil it down to a word. This is becoming a kind of a segregation type of situation here, where you have kids that have a different opportunity in one building versus another. And when they get to 6th grade, you're going to see that difference. The teachers are going to see the difference between the different educational opportunities, and that's not fair. So I really hope that going forward, we really think about all the time that the parents and the community members also put in to this time for this committee, the Reimagining Committee. It wasn't an easy thing for us to take time away from our families because it is a very busy season in our lives. And we thought it was really important. And it feels like we were pushed aside and like our time wasn't taken as valuable when we put forward our feelings and our time and put the kids in our front view. You know, they were our why the whole time. And I feel like kind of like it was all for naught because 15 people showed up at the meeting and said that they were upset. And for some reason, Susan, now you're going to bend. Of all times to bend, now was not the time. Thank you.
I was also on that committee. It would have been real helpful to have the financial information that you just presented to make a decision too. I really do feel that way. Seeing that you presented Glen Warden and Lincoln and not Glendale or even SAC, obviously we need that big building. It's already like showing us that we wasted our time, that you guys, I'm not saying bored, but we all have a decision between Glendale or Glen Warden and Lincoln. It looks like Glendale is actually costing us a lot of money. Why did you not even run those numbers? You're in charge of that. Well,
numbers are very similar because of the aid. So I was very clear that I show that there was very negligible transportation costs, economic. But for me to put together those run information takes some more time.
Okay, but there was
But
also
I showed clearly the economic impact of each elementary school. So this is not a myopic.
I'm not the first person. You actually had a board member ask, why did you not show? Why are we not considering all the information? They just asked you for your numbers for the next one, so.
They asked me for routing information, which I said I could put together, but in the short time I had, which.
Short time. This was discussed last year.
We'll get, Drew will do this information for us, and we'll be
Okay.
able to get that to everybody.
But I just don't, there's no transparency. I've said this at many meetings. Come on, this is not something that happened overnight. This has been years in the making. And number two, focus on why do we have people not moving here? Why is our enrollment down? I can tell you, there's a lot of things that's going on that we have a neighboring district that everybody wants to move to Brent Hills. Maybe look there, look and see what they're doing right and what we're doing wrong here. Because I'm in that predicament. Again, a DS1 class lost their 4th teacher. Now we're just going to put a Band-Aid on it, and thank God that this other teacher, who I hope we don't burn out, is now collapsing and being a teacher in 2 different rooms for half the day. That's your solution. Until you can find someone who will probably leave again because they don't have the correct support staff. I do appreciate it. I did get a phone call from Mrs. Schwartz, and I did get a face-to-face meeting today. And I do appreciate that you want to have a certified teacher in there, but again, why are these people leaving? People don't go into special ed just to be a teacher. I mean, it's every teacher, for the most part, I would like to think in my little head, that they go there because they love the kids. So when I keep hearing lack of support, lack of training, if you have a teacher's aide or if you have a thing, now we're going to have teacher's aides support that class half the time when the other teacher can't be there. I'm happy at least we have someone, because last January through March, it was just preschool. There was teacher's aides running the classroom for 3 months. Every single thing has to change, and it has to start now. It should have started probably 5 years ago. And if it has to come with, and no disrespect, but if we have to change some positions up, maybe we should look into that. I have never seen a school district have so many interim person. I've been through 2, 3? Head of the special ed departments. Intern this, intern that. I want a person. I want that person to be permanent. It's not fair. It's not fair to the schools. It's not fair to the kids. And when they hear all this, because people do and they talk, why would they want to move here? We can't keep doing this. That's all. I'm sorry, but closing down the school is just a Band-Aid right now. Because guess what? If we don't bring people here, it's going to happen again. What real good teacher is going to want to come and work at this school district if they don't know that they have a job next year? Think about that. Because we're all tartans. You all have kids that come here or went here, or you have your foot in the game here. Come on.
Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Hoffman, President of the Teachers Association. I'm not here to talk about any of those things. On page 4 of your board agenda tonight, you board appointed number 5, Therese Brigham as tutor for up to 15 hours. That vacancy was never posted for the SGTA. We've talked about this many times at these board meetings. I've spoken publicly about it. I have grieved it and gone through the grievance process about it, reassured by the district that we would not be posting or not board appointing people that for positions that have not been previously posted. I wrote to the administrator. He did write back to me and said, yes, in fact, they did not post this position. I wrote to the superintendent. I wrote to everybody that makes the agenda, asking for this to be removed ahead of time so that the vacancy could be properly posted for SGTA members, and so that wasn't done, and this was just appointed again. So I'm just here to remind that we do actually have contractual language that is very specific about vacancies, and that SGTA should get first dibs at these home instruction and tutoring opportunities. And I also am pretty sure that the SGTA rate is significantly lower than the CAP region rate for that tutoring time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, if there's no one else that wishes to address the board at this time, we'll close the second hearing and privilege of the floor. Appreciate everyone's comments tonight and emails that they've sent us over the time. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday. At this time, we'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Thank you.